Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Grumpy Snail podcast with your host, me, the uncancelable Jonathan Snyder, and we're back again. Figured it's been such a while, such a long while, such a short while, such a moment in time, and since we had been here, and I figured it was time again to go ahead and do another podcast for you guys. There's a lot that has happened. There's a lot to talk about. Before we get started, go ahead and click that like button. Go ahead and share it on all your media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or don't do any of that stuff. Do whatever you like. It's fine. I make no money off of these videos. I have no sponsors. I do not monetize these videos. If you see any ads on these videos, it's all YouTube. They're making all that money. I am not asking for anything at all. So, but also, before we get started, we'll go ahead and mention what we're drinking today. Today we're doing a little Irish whiskey. The Quiet Man here is a 8-year-old single malt. It's not bad. Not too heavy on the Irish whiskeys. I do have several, several scotches because I like my lowland scotch. But today we're drinking Irish. And like I said, it's not too bad. Always, of course, in our old-fashioned glass with a little bit of ice. That's the way I like it. I know it kills you Puritans out there, but that's the way I drink it. So, let's go ahead and get started. So, as always, we're going to talk a little bit about the news that's going on, but also we're going to kind of get more into our, more philosophy as to how we're thinking about certain things, because I mean, you can talk about what's going on in the news and what you think should happen and shouldn't happen and all that stuff. But really, I think we would unite more by discussing philosophies as opposed to what's in the news. Because we talk about what's in the news and we think, well, this is good, this is bad. But when it really comes down to it, we really, most of all of us want pretty much the same things in life. And so I think we should, touch a little bit on that more. And of course, we're going to talk about the Rittenhouse case. Of course, we're going to talk about Aubrey case. Of course, there's a lot of shootings going on. And I know what some of you liberal people out there are thinking, the ones that watch this. Well, we should probably get rid of like firearms and whatnot. But I mean, getting rid of firearms wouldn't do a whole lot, considering that one of the shootings in the news is the Alec Baldwin case. So yeah, I don't think you're going to get away from this one. So Rittenhouse was found not guilty of all charges. Now, you can say, no, he is guilty. The white supremacist should be in jail for the rest of his life. Whatever you're thinking. But when we look at the case is Wisconsin versus Rittenhouse. And so we have the state against an individual. And it's funny how a lot of people on the left will talk about how the system is racist and there's like all this systemic bigotry and inequity built into the system, and they never seem to go, well, so the government is built with systemic racism and inequity. You're the big power in the government. You're in charge. So if there's a problem with systemic racism and inequity, I think maybe you should look into the mirror. This is a state against an individual. And the question is, do you, as an individual, forget Rittenhouse, forget what happened, do you have a right to self-defense? Do you have a right to defend yourself against any bodily harm on your person or your private property if you believe in private property? So if you don't, you probably think that it's up to the state to protect you. And in this case, in which there were riots and mob rule, the state, which, the enforcement arm of the state is, of course, its police force, or its, standing military. In case of the National Guard, if you look at the National Guard that was just put in place in Kenosha, they were not protecting anyone. They were standing back and letting these riots take place. And I do not want to get the riots that took place in Kenosha confused with the BLM protests that took place in Kenosha during the day, because I know a lot of conservative pundits like to just focus on, no, these are all protests, they're riots, they were very violent, and at night they were. But during the day, when there was a whole different set of people on the streets, they were mostly peaceful protests. So I don't want to, get those two different things confused with each other, because that's, I think, where we run into problems. The world is full of nuance, and I think people like to just try to cut all that out and just, look at it in black and white, good, bad, evil and not. And it's much more complicated than that. And I think putting people in boxes and all those things are not helpful to anyone. So, after that rambly nonsense, so, like I said, if the state isn't going to protect you, then you have to protect yourself, because the state isn't. It's not going to. And if you're one of these people that think Rittenhouse should have gone to prison, well, the justice system isn't helping you either. So I really want you to look at this and put biases aside and all that, and say, do you have a right to personal protection? If you don't, and the state is supposed to protect you, then the state needs to protect you, because they're not. That's not happening. I don't understand why many leftists think that it's up to the state for those things. Why they expect the government to give them everything, because the government's not. It's even if you vote for that, if you put those systems in place, they will not. They will find a way to enrich itself and leave you dead in the street, as many people have found out and continue to find out. So my obvious solution would be, everyone has a right to personal self-defense. Now, in the case of Rittenhouse, a lot of people are saying, well, he shouldn't have been there. And I agree with you. There's no reason that a 17-year-old should have been out in the street armed with any type of firearm, because it's a child. Adult brains aren't completely done growing and getting those connections done until around 26 years old. And many people, most people, in almost all of states, can't purchase cigarettes, can't purchase alcohol, can't drive legally, can't do a lot of things at the age of 17. I mean, you have to be 20-something in most cases to get a hotel room or something like that. So, no, this child had no business being in the street. But I caution you to try to use that logic, because it's the same type of logic that a lot of stupid conservative people use in the case of rape. Well, she shouldn't have been wearing that short skirt, or she shouldn't have been out in those alleyways all by herself at night. She was asking for it, as if Kyle Rittenhouse was asking to be attacked by criminals, because that's who these people were. Now the lawyers couldn't enter that information into evidence, because it's not relevant to the case. It doesn't really matter in specific sense if these people were criminals or not, but they were. They all had heavy criminal backgrounds. Even the jump kick guy, who was unnamed during the case, but was immediately ousted because the media already knew who he was. They were just keeping it quiet. But this guy turned out to be a career criminal, and I think Richie McGinnis, if that was his name, was the only good faith actor person out there who was doing nothing but gathering journalistic information and, of course, rendering first aid. So the whole thing was a bunch of bad actors, mostly. Should have not been there, no, but that's not a good case to dump the self-defense case. The kid was there, so everything after that, you have to take it with that. What else? I'm severely upset with the amount of lies that the corporate media continue to push about this case, even after the case is ended. It's already over, but they continue to state straight out lies and misinformation, inaccuracies, defaming this kid, and pretty much just fanning the flames of just complete chaos is what is happening. The first lie that always starts is he took a firearm across state lines, and that's not true. He did not take a firearm across state lines. He crossed state lines without a firearm, got a firearm in Wisconsin. So that's not true. The firearm charge, it was a long rifle, and you're allowed to carry a long rifle. So that's why the judge dismissed the firearm charge. All these things that the media is spouting is, I guess, only for people that did not watch the case, that just tune into MSNBC to get their news, as opposed to actually, critically thinking, because that is the war right now. The war is against critical thinking. They do not want you to critically think. They want to tell you what to think, and that you have to follow their orders. That's the basic premise of all this. So, we're going to, kind of look at that as we go along. The whole point is, that is the point, that you don't think, that you just do as you're told. So the other firearm case that we have that's going to come to a close soon because the defense just wrapped their arguments is the Aubrey case, which most people aren't following. It's not really in the news anywhere near as much as the Rittenhouse case was. Speaking of Rittenhouse, I want to go ahead and get into one last thing before we switch over, and that's the whole race thing. The thing that this kid is a white supremacist, and this white guy shot and killed and shot at other white people. All people involved in the whole situation are all white. I don't know where the racist thing's coming from. I don't know where the supremacy thing's coming from. All the people involved are the same race. This could have happened in Sweden. And, it would have been odd. No, wait, is Sweden where they just give everybody a gun? Is that the Sweden thing? Anyway, it could have happened in any of those Nordic countries where everybody's like 90% white. And the corporate media is going to be screaming racism. It's so very odd. Dumb people don't fall for this stuff. And it's weird. It's weird to see it, It's one thing to have propaganda lie to you, tell you things that you can't just go, I don't know, maybe that's true. That doesn't quite sound right, but I guess they know. But it's another thing to go, no, those are lies. What you're saying are lies. I know they're lies because I know what happened. What are you talking about? It's just like you witnessing an event, and then when you go watch it be reported on TV, it's completely different than what you're saying. You're like, that's not true at all. That's not what happened. What are they talking? Where are they getting their information? Why are they telling these lies about me or about other people that I know or an event that I know that happened? So it's very odd. It's very odd to see that. And I don't know how you combat it, because a lot of people are just trying to get through their day. They're just trying to work, to pay the bills, to get enough money to feed their families. and it's hard enough to do that with the issues that we have. But like I said, we're going to move on to the Aubrey case that isn't really big in the news, but it's funny because when you look at the majority, I want to say majority of people's opinion on the Rittenhouse case was that it was a clear-cut case of self-defense. But when they look at the Aubrey case, it's a clear-cut case of 3 guys chased down this other guy and shot and killed him, and they probably really need to go to jail for this. So when I'm online and seeing what people are thinking and looking at the comments, and it's funny because if I have to look, it's sad that the situation that we're in, because if I'm online and I'm reading about a case, I have to look at a left-wing side to read the comments of the people on the left-wing side to see what they're thinking about it, and then I have to look at right-wing news to read the comments of the people on the right-wing side, because everybody's polarized and they're only in their own echo chambers listening to whatever they're being told. And it's really disgusting what the corporate media has done to people. And then those two sides are fighting. There's some people that just want to stick their head in the sand and not look at anything because they just can't stand it. They can't take it. They can't deal with all the hatred and stuff that's taking place. And then there's people like me that are just trying to figure out what the hell's going on. That's all we want to know is what's going on. So it's sad that I have to that let's say I'm going through Facebook and I see a post by let's say Ben Shapiro. So I have to know that every comment to that article is going to be all conservatives, because liberals won't look at Ben Shapiro. But then I have to also look at the NPR post of the same thing so that I can get the liberal, and it's just sad that that's the state that we're in. It's utterly sad. But the consensus is that Rittenhouse is not guilty, and that these 3 men are guilty. And you want to talk about race? Race is involved in this, because these 3 white guys chased down this black guy and killed him. So I'm sure there's more to that case, because I'm not watching the case. I'm just reading what the news is reporting. That's it. So I know that news isn't completely accurate, because I just know that. I know because I know that the news isn't telling the complete truth. They haven't, and the older I get, the more cases there are where the news isn't telling the truth. They're just telling their side in order to affect their agenda on whatever it is, which is complete chaos. Though I would assume that the majority of people agree with this case, which is why it's not covered in the mainstream. It's not. It's like it's happening. We know what's going on. It's being reported, but it's not shoved in your face. I mean, the Rittenhouse case is over, and still that we've got the Department of Justice coming out saying this is not justice. They're investigating it. We've got the corporate media saying this is a travesty. Justice is not served. No peace, or or silence, no peace, or whatever they're chanting out there. It's complete nonsense. We as a society need to move on. Understand that every person, no matter whether you're white, you're black, or you're a white supremacist or a Black Panther or whatever, you have the right to self-defense. It's your Second Amendment right. Shall not be infringed. It's right there. Black and white. Every person has the right to self-defense. Everyone. Every single person. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in the Aubrey case. Like I said, I don't know if that's gonna be wrapped up this weekend. At the moment, I don't know, because we kind of do a little time travel here in this show. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. The Alec Baldwin case is a very interesting case because we're getting little bits of information, and they're conflicting. They're conflicting information, and the reason it's interesting is because you can't go political. You can't go political with this story because we're talking about like an all like left situation. I mean the culture is left leaning in this country. The culture is left leaning. You have some conservative bits here and there, but most part culture is more progressive. So everyone in this situation is progressive. So it's interesting. It's an interesting situation. Alec Baldwin, is a staunch. Is that the correct word? The vocabulary is a little messed up. Anti-gun person, which is why it's interesting to see all these Hollywood anti-gun people making their movies with their shooting the guns and nobody has any morals in the. I don't want to say that. Most of these people do not have any morals in the Democrat left side. But, a lot of people on the right side don't have morals either. I mean, it's a whole hullabaloo. I don't like sticking people in boxes, because you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't stick people in boxes. You shouldn't dehumanize people. But, I mean, we're talking, these are the same people that are like, you should be wearing masks, and then they themselves don't wear masks. And that's a small thing. That's not a big thing. It's just a small thing. But it's a good example. It's a good example to see these people that say you should do something that I'm not going to do, but you should do it because I said so. So yeah, so it's interesting because at one point it's like, so maybe it wasn't Alec Baldwin's fault, maybe it was this guy's fault, and then a little thing comes out and says, no, Alec Baldwin did this, and it's like, maybe it is Alec Baldwin's fault, but then something else comes out and it's like, and then it's very interesting. It's a very interesting story as all these little tidbits come out. So it's something we will want to just watch because it's kind of exciting. It's kind of exciting to watch. It's very unfortunate that lady died and the director went to the hospital for this gunshot, but it's still an interesting story. Something else that happened that happened a little while back at this point were the elections that took place. We had all these small state elections. Virginia elected a governor. Let's see, there were some Senate seats. Local Senate seats, not national, but local seats. There was some. The New Jersey governor got real close. I think it was the governor. Again, this is. I'm trying to remember back. But that person kept their seat, right? So I think there was a Senate seat from New York in which one of the candidates was a write-in because the person on the ballot was this crazy progressive left person, and they were like, I don't think so. People were like, no, I don't think so. No, we're going to write in this other Democrat guy, and we're going to go with that. And that person won on a write-in. Won from a state legislative position. So the media talked about it as it was a red wave. Youngkin won Virginia. The lieutenant governor was a Republican, a black immigrant of all things, and still, of course, called some white supremacist somehow. The attorney general, right? Was it attorney general? Lieutenant governor, attorney. I think it was attorney general of Virginia. Was this Hispanic man? Of course, white supremacist, of course, because he's a Republican, and that's if you're a Republican, you're a white supremacist. That's just how it works. Doesn't matter what your policies are, what you believe. If you're a Republican, you're a white supremacist. You're also probably a terrorist because all Republicans are terrorists. Glad I'm not a Republican. Ooh, that would be bad. But, people are shaking a little bit. They're really worried about the midterms coming up next year. They're worried that that the Democrats are going to lose their powers that they have at the federal government. They're afraid, the House is going to flip, the Senate's going to flip, and then nothing will happen for the next 2 years, which is, what happened with Obama. It's what happened with Trump. Midterms. That's how the pendulum swings. At the midterms, the Democrats took over the legislative branch, and then nothing happened for 2 years. I mean, except for the whole pandemic thing that happened. They like to talk about how Trump's reaction to the pandemic was so terrible, but I don't see the Democrats' reaction being all that much better. Cases are still high. More people have died since Biden took office than the year that Trump was dealing with the pandemic. And so I really think it's a wash. We're in this situation. And the point is, you can try to blame the previous administration for whatever failings that they had. But, when you run, you're running to fix the problem. So if you win and you don't fix your problems, you can blame the previous administration all you want, but your whole thing was to fix the problems. So if you're not fixing them, then you're not doing what you said you were going to do. So I don't think saying that the previous administration, blah, blah, doesn't help. And to blame the previous administration for things that was happening in the previous administration, like the whole border thing, that's not... The border's been an issue for like 5 presidents now. So you can't... I know how they like to blame Trump, but this, I don't think so. It's your problem now, and it's up to you to fix it. And if you don't fix it, it'll be your fault, and it'll be your responsibility. The buck will stop with you. It won't matter, because just like the last administration, this one doesn't take responsibility. So, because of that, we have the situation we have, which is the same. It's the same as it's been for months. We still have the pandemic going on. I guess the new thing now is for the mandates. The mandates that Biden promised he wasn't going to do. They tried them. And once, after months, Biden finally got the writing. I want to call it legislation, but that's not what it is, because the legislature, the executive branch, just, I guess, signs decrees and orders, but got the paperwork up for OSHA to implement this order, and was promptly sued by multiple states and multiple businesses, and so it all got held up in the 5th and 6th circuits, and now now OSHA has decided they're going to stay the order until the judicial thing gets all sorted out. It's going to end up at the Supreme Court, and it'll be up to those 9 people to figure out what kind of society we're going to be from now on, because the vaccine mandates are just the start before we get into Ready Player One nonsense, where everybody's living in little shipping containers, strapping in their virtual nonsense, all starving and freezing to death because of inflation, which is here. And inflation is here, and it's a happy day to see it. I told you so, I guess. I don't know. It's all the people that are saying the end is here, and you walk by them on the street. They're not happy when it actually gets here. They're like, "Yes, I was right. Thank God I was right." That's not. We don't take any pleasure of being right. We'd rather be wrong, to be honest. I would much rather inflation not be here. I would rather all the Biden policies that I'm against, or just liberal policies in general that I'm against, actually did good for us. Like, I wish that all the printing of trillions of dollars actually helped the people. Even though I'm against it, I would still rather be wrong and it help people, as opposed to what it's doing, which is driving. It's one of the things, but it's driving up, prices of everything. So food is up, gas is up, all all consumer goods. All consumer goods are up. And the thing is that they're going to continue to go up because the inflation at the producer level, it has been and is higher than at the consumer level because the corporate media lied to you, surprise, about about inflation being transitory. It was, it's just transitory, it's just going to be here for a little bit and then it'll be gone. And so the producers, decided they were going to eat some of that cost because, I mean, businesses have to make a decision where their profit margins are, and if a rise in price for the consumer is going to negatively affect the amount of business that they do, and if it is, then just eat that cost a little bit, and then when things go back to normal, then you reap the benefits. But that's not what's happening. So the consumer costs are going to continue to go up until they cancel out those producer costs. And this isn't just a black and white thing. You can't just go, they're printing money and therefore inflation. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of stuff going on at work. There's a lot of angles. The pandemic and reaction. The pandemic itself and the reaction is causing a lot of different things to happen. That's causing the inflation and the shortages. So all those are here. They're all getting worse. It's the holiday season. It's going to continue to get worse because even though the mandate is halted for private businesses at the moment, it's for federal employees, federal businesses such as the TSA, the health industry and all that stuff. These mandates are there, and on November 22nd, which I believe that date is correct, and that would be Monday, this coming Monday, the mandate goes in effect for the TSA and probably other things, but specifically the TSA. And at the moment of this recording, TSA was still at 40% non-vaccinated. So if that stays true and the TSA doesn't just go, well, F this mandate thing, we're going to work, then 40% of all TSA agents are not going to be at work on Monday, and that is going to wreak havoc on the holiday season because travel, is always up. People are going to see their relatives and whatnots and friends, and so the travel is always up during the holiday season. And if you're gonna disrupt the travel industry, then things are gonna be interesting next week. For me, I don't travel for Thanksgiving. I'm in the woods, grocery shopping. So that's what's going to be happening with me next week. Hopefully, at some point, all the supply chain stuff will work itself out. I mean, I don't anticipate it to, at the very earliest, a year from now, because I expect the supply chain to correct itself at the time when the pandemic started. So we have to, first of all, the pandemic has to stop, which hasn't happened yet because the left progressive Democrat corporate media nonsense like this pandemic. They like having their control, so they're going to stretch it out as long as they can. There's still tons of states and cities and municipalities that have these mandates and restrictions, and because of that, this whole pandemic thing's still going on, and it's still going to continue. And so until that ends, then we have that much time until the supply chain catches up, because our supply chain was established on top of a just-in-time example. So you get all the things that you want when you want it, and not a moment before, because that's not efficient to just stack stuff off and have it waiting for some people to come and get it. No, you get it right when you need it, and that is not a good, platform to have if you're going to disrupt a world economy for 2 years or however long this continues to go on with. I mean, all these places still have these restrictions, and the places with the most restrictions have the most cases. I believe Vermont has the most vaccines administered, the most people vaccinated, and their cases are on the rise right now. So that's going to continue to happen because the whole thing is endemic, but I'm not going to go into that because YouTube has things about that. So the point is that these problems are going to continue. Hopefully we'll make it through. I don't know, because we've got climate change on top of that. So I don't know what to tell you except that it's going to get bad. If it isn't already bad for you, it's going to get worse. If we make it, we make it. If we don't, I'm not one bit surprised. But tune in next weekend, because next weekend I'll have a video. I'll have a vloggy video. One of my story. I'll have a story video, and then the weekend after that, I should start with the hunting footage. I mean, the grocery shopping footage. Damn it. But until then, until next time, and of course, we have Christmas coming up, and do one more of these things for the end of the year to into the next. We pray for a better one. So here's to you, ladies and gentlemen. Cheers. God bless, and Godspeed.